My name is Doug Hinsey, like Rebecca said, and I actually was at Centerville Junior High as a 7th grader 18 years ago. Is that kind of crazy? And I'm super excited to share a little bit about what I do, my career path, and I guess what brought me here today. I put here just a couple things that I guess I think a lot about now. I put faith, family, food, 3 F's, probably good to remember. I think about those a lot. I do a lot of running. I'm in a little bit of rock climbing, bouldering these days. I love shoes. It's kind of weird. It's what we're going to be talking about. Even as a 7th grader, I had a crazy fascination for shoes. While I was typing this out, I wrote food again accidentally, but then I guess I just think a lot about food. I have something that's called Crohn's disease, so I have to think about what I eat a little bit more than the normal person. And I am an avid Utah Jazz fan. Are there any Utah Jazz sufferers in here that you just like it even though we're bad? We're going to be good soon, so keep up the faith. What I do, I'm a footwear designer and product designer. I've also co-founded a company called Landed Footwear that I'll talk a little bit about. And I teach classes at Salt Lake Community College in the Fashion Institute there. So that's a little bit of an intro on me. I wanted to bring out some pictures. I was actually grew up, I'm trying to think, honestly, I might have my dates wrong here, but when I was in junior high, we didn't have social media, or it wasn't very prevalent at least. So I couldn't even find that many pictures of myself because I guess we just took more pictures when social media started. But this is me as a 7th grader here as well. This is my 7th grade picture. But I guess to tie it in, I think you were here 18 years ago, correct? Yep. But I don't think any of the other teachers were. Don't recognize them at least. I went to Viewmont High School afterwards where social media existed at that point, so I had more pictures that I could get back to on Facebook, I guess. Did a little choir. I was on the impact team where we told people not to do drugs and to be nice to each other. Kind of like Dare, yeah. I played tennis, football, basketball, went to dances. Since I served an LDS mission, got married, and I have 2 kids, a 5-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. So maybe you can relate to something here that I just said. If anything, you can relate to the fact that you're a 7th grader, and I was once too. And I even came to this library. When I was in 7th grade, the librarian's name was Mr. Monson, and he would spell his name backwards and upside down, and it would say no snow. Random memory. But so my path after 7th grade, I went to 8th grade, which naturally that's the next step, right? And 8th grade is my point here. 8th grade was the last time that I took an art class. And it was drawing, and I drew a picture of my dog. I couldn't find the picture. I actually have a funny memory that the teacher put the grade on my paper in pencil. I got like an A- on my last picture, and I actually erased the minus because I thought that the picture looked so cool that I wasn't going to accept the A-, even though. But random memory is probably in my mom's basement somewhere in a box, but I couldn't find it. So here's a picture of my dog from back then. But I guess I want to highlight that point just because what I do now, it would be something very much considered in the field of art. And 8th grade was the last time that I took an art class. And so one of the reasons why I'm passionate about sharing a little bit about what I do is just to give some exposure to the field of design. I didn't know any designers until I was 3 years into college when I was introduced to the field and made the jump. But I just wanted to share some random memories. So I wore a Utah State shirt today. I went to Utah State. I will talk about that a little bit. But when I was in junior high school, I was an avid Aggie. And one of my junior high highlights was that we did a food drive, and it was BYU versus Utah. It was like the week they played in football or something like that. And whenever anyone would say BYU or Utah, I would say neither because I was just an Aggie. And so when I was in junior high, I can't remember which grade it was, we were doing a food drive, and I wasn't going to donate to BYU or Utah, so I brought a Utah State box that I decorated on my own. And over the intercom, they started saying how many cans Utah State had, and so that was a random proud moment. And with my Utah State fandom, when I was here, Mr. Lacey, I don't know if he's here anymore, but he left last year. He was the Spanish teacher. So I actually lived a part of my childhood in South America, and so I learned Spanish early. So when I was in 7th grade, I took Spanish 3. So at that time, it was the last Spanish you could take. And in Mr. Lacey's class, instead of learning one day, we watched March Madness basketball, and Utah State was playing, and they were highly touted to have a great season, and they lost, and I cried in class. I was a true fan. But those are my junior high highlights there. Since junior high, like I said, I went to Viewmont High School. I went on an LDS mission to Guatemala. I went to BYU for 2 years and then transferred to Utah State. While at Utah State, I did lots of internships. That's where you work part-time and get a lot of learning from different companies on how to do product design. After I graduated from Utah State, it was 2020. Does anyone know what happened in 2020? COVID, wow, right? A long time. I graduated, there weren't very many jobs, and so I decided to go on to graduate school. So I moved to Oregon and did a master's in sports product design at the University of Oregon. And so this is a little bit about my path, and we'll talk about it more. What's like a hard stop? We have all day. Is that right? Well, we do. Okay. Or the general time though is the. Oh, okay. 9:35. Okay, cool. So I wanted to highlight that there's no one path to get to where you want to get to. There are lots of different routes. People that I work with, I don't know anyone that's followed the exact same path as me from Centerville Junior High to working as a footwear designer. Everyone has a different route to where they go. But I recently was talking to a high school student that was interested in design, and they were asking me if they were already too late to get into the industry. And I just laughed because it took me years into college to even realizing that it was a potential career route and something to be done. So if I had one, I guess, early presentation point to tell you all is that just continue to explore, find the things that you love and like, and pursue those, and that will take you down a fun path. I talked about it a little bit, but I'm a co-founder, and owner, designer for Landed Footwear. I've got some shoes up here that afterwards you can come look at. Some of them are a little bit dirty because we've used them for outdoor photography. Also have some other shoes. I work for Black Diamond Equipment. Has anyone ever heard of Black Diamond? Okay. They're a Utah company, outdoor, climbing, skiing. I've got some boots here that I designed. These were some shoes that were hopefully going to be worn by some Olympic climbing athletes that then they actually didn't make it to the Olympics, so we didn't make the shoes. And then has anyone heard of One Wheel? It's kind of like a skateboard with one wheel in the middle. You lean forward, it goes faster, some of you? Okay, so with Landed, we're working on a cool collaboration with One Wheel to make what I'm calling the official shoe of One Wheel. Kind of a fun random thing. So I've worked for a lot of different companies since I started college. Worked on shoes, I've designed backpacks, clothes, sleeping bags, I've helped work on tents, different things like that. So in what I learned at Utah State and the University of Oregon and some online courses that I've taken elsewhere is just the general principles of how to design products. So I'll talk about that a little bit here, I think. Next slide. So has anyone here ever heard of product design? Is that like 2 words you've ever heard of back to back? Okay. I don't think I had ever heard of that until I was 23. So if you think about it, what's that? Okay. Snakes are cool. Yep. If you think about it right now, if you look at your chair, or if you look at this board, or your shoes, or the clothes that you're wearing, or anything else that isn't naturally coming from the ground. Somebody designed it. So take a minute, take it in, look at the shelves, even the books. Someone did the graphics on the front, designed the spine of the book to bend appropriately and not break when you open it. The computers were designed. So just to open your mind a little bit to maybe something that I hadn't considered, and maybe people were telling me about it and I wasn't paying attention. But everything that you see has been designed by somebody. Somebody worked on it. That was somebody's job to bring it to life and to get it in front of you. So if you like building things, if you're curious how things work, or just find yourself really liking like a specific toy or whatever it is that you might love, someone designed it to be the way it is. So that is a career path and something that you can do. So as designers, what we do and what I try to do is to solve problems for people by creating products and objects that people love and help make their life easier. So there are a lot of different things within design. So I tried to bring up an image that showed some different facets. Does anyone here like to draw? Got some drawers, some doodlers? Make it past 8th grade art class. That's what I'm telling you to do. Yeah, you got to make it past there. You can keep going. There's things that you can do with that. So in design, we do a lot of research as well. And we look at other products that have been created. We test them. We try and understand how they work, how they were built. Can they be improved upon? After research is ever present, but we do a lot of sketching and drawing. That's where you don't have to be the most magnificent drawer, but it's just a form of communication. This is one way where we can take ideas from our head and put them on paper or on an iPad or a tablet, however it is. But you don't have to be an award-winning artist to be able to communicate your thoughts through sketching. Other things that we do, we build things. Like we build prototypes. So when I was at Utah State University, a big emphasis at the program then was in what we call soft goods. So that would be things that can be sewn. So all of you are wearing something that was sewn currently, whether it's a jacket, a shirt, pants. I'll let your imagination go from there. But so one of the big things that I learned how to do was to sew at the start. Does anyone here know how to sew? In 7th grade, do we learn how to sew? Not 7th. Yes.
I know how to, but I'm not good at it.
Sewing is super important. Understanding construction is vital. Different kind of stitching, different kind of thread, different kind of material, it all has its purpose. After sewing, I learned how to 3D print. Has anyone ever 3D printed? Or seen a 3D printer or 3D printed toys or different things like that? Okay. 3D printing is a way that we can build things quickly and get an idea of how they work. There's also mold making. So some of these you can see different like foams or rubbers. You can make molds sometimes using 3D printed materials. Or you can carve foam. There's lots of different things that you can do to build quick prototypes, play with clay, different things like that. What we try to do as designers is to validate or test an idea as quickly as we can. So we can take it from a thought in our head to a sketch on paper to something that someone can hold and test and say, I love this, I hate it, or something around that. And depending on where you work or different fields, if you're designing a chair or a shoe or the banners across the checkered banners across the back here, there are different skills and expertises. But I want you to think and know that something that you're looking at was designed by somebody. And that was a job, and that's what they wake up and do every day. I wanted to, I guess, highlight a couple projects. Before I got into design, I was trying to figure out my path. So when I was in junior high school, and probably up until my junior year of high school, I was completely convinced that I was going to play in the NFL. I didn't even make it. Didn't even play college. And honestly, when I got to my senior year, I was like, it's just when we started talking about concussions a little bit more. We don't have to go too into depth there. But I was like, maybe I don't really like getting hit that much. But I sure did like catching a football. But I started to explore different things. When I went to college, I declared and tried, I think, 4 different majors while I was at BYU before I ended up hearing about product design at Utah State and transferring over and completely changing schools and kind of my life at that point. And so since then, I've had a lot of cool opportunities to design different things. When I was trying to find my path, I liked a company called Cotopaxi. Has anyone ever heard of Cotopaxi? Yeah? So Cotopaxi is really cool because they were one of the first companies to make doing good their main mantra, and why they were trying to have a successful company was to then give back to others. And I thought that was really cool. But at this point, I had realized my obsession for footwear, and Cotopaxi isn't a shoe company, at least at this point. They've done some collaborations, but even though I loved Cotopaxi, I didn't want to work for them because I wanted to work on shoes. My sick passion, I guess, was to design shoes and work on those. But while I was a grad school student, I worked on a project of creating a shoe line for Cotopaxi out of Cotopaxi backpacks. And so that was a fun thing that I did. Since then, I've worked for a lot of different companies. I worked for a company that used to be in Kaysville. It's called Climate. They since moved to Tennessee. But this was while I was a student at Utah State. I did an internship there. And my first project was an inflatable dog bed. Cool, right? Still in my head, I knew I wanted to be a footwear designer. So when I first got the project, I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, okay, I'm the intern. They're giving me a project that maybe no one else wants to do. But this ended up becoming one of the products that had the most social media images taken of because people love their pets. And it ended up being a lot of fun and an amazing learning experience for me. And it's hard not to like beautiful dogs taking a snooze on an inflatable bed. So that was really fun. Another project that I've done was I did some work for a women's footwear company in Springville called Solely Jane. And maybe I needed a better image here, but or a sample. But what these sandals do is there's a bottom, we'll just call it the base of the shoe, what's under your foot in the sandal, the sole, and then there's an upper. So the upper of a shoe is what covers the top of your foot. And in these shoes, the sole and the upper separate. And so you can have one sole and essentially an infinite amount of uppers that you can interchange. And that was a project that there's a difference between designers and engineers. This project was more kind of in the technical engineering space, and so it was one that pushed me a lot. I was able to travel to Vietnam to visit the footwear factory and work with really smart people to create good design solutions. So with everything that I've done, there have been lots of different learning opportunities. So I would say even in 7th grade, maybe you don't even have these thoughts yet of like good versus bad learning opportunities, but everything that you're doing is a great opportunity to learn. And you'll take it with you onto the next project and the next thing that you do. I guess one thing I wanted to say, there's a mantra in design that we fail fast. Does anyone here like failure? Does anyone just like love it? Like today I'm gonna wake up and fail? Failure is awesome. Failure is the next step to creating something great. Failure is learning, and failure is new opportunities. So think of failure in a different light now, because any time that we fail, we're just learning and stepping up for our next experience. But in design, we love failing. Failing is awesome. We fail as fast as we can. We learn from it and we correct it. So this is when I was a 7th grader, honestly, we go back to I want to play in the NFL. I was completely convinced for probably a span of 5 to 6 years that was 100% my trajectory, and I was going to do anything, no matter what, to make it. And I did not ever think about being an entrepreneur. Does anyone know what an entrepreneur is or means? Someone say it a little bit louder. You make stuff, yeah, and you make stuff and you sell it, and maybe that's a simple way to look at it, but it's you owning your own business. I even remember when I was in high school, there was something called FBLA. That's not a junior high thing, right? Future Business Leaders of America. And in my brain, I thought, well, I didn't really even think much about it because didn't consider myself owning a business or having a business. And I love it. I love having my own business. It's definitely not for everyone and not something that everyone needs to do to be fulfilled in life. But if you have an idea and you'd like to pursue it, something that you can do. Living in the United States of America and trying to start a business is a great place. It's very much promoted and helped. But it all starts with having an idea and pursuing it. Something that I think is really important. We talked about in design, we have ideas, we test them, we fail, we improve upon them. The same thing is in business. You might have an idea and think it's the most golden, amazing idea, and it probably isn't. Your first idea, you might hit some failure and some blocks. Some people have amazing golden ideas and they take it and they run with it and it's awesome. But more often than not, we fail and we get it back up and we change and we try again. But something that's very important to me is building a good team, working with people that have skills that you don't, that are smarter than you, that work hard and get the job done. Being around the right people is really important. And I think that goes with who you sit by in class, if you have unassigned seating, I guess, or the people that you spend time with. Try to be around people that lift you up and help you to improve and to continue to build towards your goals. What I would say now is where you're at in life, just enjoy it. Do what you can to find things that you love, whatever your circumstance may be. We're all different here, but we're trying to find the things that bring us happiness and joy. So if you are passionate about certain things, if it's snakes or football, whatever it may be, there's a potential career route for you there. So that goes back to my point of not stopping art class after 8th grade, because there's probably more to it than you think. And explore as many of the passions as you have and would like to. So now I have my company, but I also teach. Has anyone heard of Salt Lake Community College? Yeah? So Salt Lake Community College is an awesome place. This is where there are multiple campuses. I probably should have that number in my head. I think there's like 5 campuses. Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I teach at the Salt Lake Community College South Campus in the Fashion Institute. And I am super passionate about sharing about design. When I would say even starting in elementary school, I have this question here. It was like, am I dumb? And I think this is kind of a sad question, but I want to dispel any thoughts here. When I went through elementary school and even junior high or high school, one thing that I labeled myself as was a bad reader. Even in elementary school, where we started with the different reading levels, it's something that I'll never forget. And I always felt I was always further behind than other people in reading. And it made me feel like maybe I wasn't as smart as some of my other students and friends. And maybe made me feel a little bit behind. And even honestly, up until a couple of years into college, I still had some of these thoughts. Like I would take tests and study with friends and they would do better than me. And in some way I felt like it wasn't fair and maybe I was just behind in a different way. But then when I found design and this more creative field where I was judged on the products that I was building rather than my test scores or how fast I could read or comprehension in that sense, I realized that I could have success and that I had skills in a different space that maybe other people didn't. And I just learned and created and produced in a different way than others, and maybe in a different way than is more like traditionally held. So if you're like a young Doug and maybe you're like, I don't know about this school thing, or I don't love reading, or different things like that, there is a place for you to be really successful, and you may just create and learn and do in a different way than others. But it doesn't make you smarter or less smart. It just makes we're all different. And this is just one potential route. And there are a lot of different routes. If you're sitting there and you're like, well, maybe I resonate with that thought, but design sounds weird or not cool, there's a million other things that you can do and be successful and have an amazing, happy life, and you don't have to feel less than. So that's one of my key points. For me and other designers, design is our superpower. That's our skill that we use to solve problems, to bring happiness, and to work, have a career, and an exciting life. And other people have different powers. Maybe it's inspiring through teaching, or maybe you're very analytical, or maybe you are a great reader, or something like that. Maybe you're a writer and you have a different way to contribute, but your passions and your skills turn into your superpowers. One thing that I like to at least talk about in sharing about what we do at Salt Lake Community College is that anyone can do it. You might be thinking, maybe I'm not really good at anything. And you're trying to figure out what you're pursuing, and maybe you don't really have specific passions or anything like that. Just like myself, I just started with a desire. 3 years into college, I had never done any design, no art classes since 8th grade, but I was really interested in learning. And when I found what I loved in design, then different things that were hard for me before, like reading or giving a presentation like this, became easier because I was really interested in the content and I could feel myself learning and growing in the field. So no matter where you're at right now, this could be something that you could do. And Salt Lake Community College in general is super accessible. You might think college is really expensive, different things like that. There are a lot of programs, especially at Salt Lake Community College, that's where I know the most, about whether it's free tuition or scholarships or different ways to get in and to be a part of it. So nothing is out of your grasp if this sounds like something that is interesting to you. But I want to underscore this point. This is to, you're not dumb. We're all different, and we learn and grow, and we succeed in different ways. So maybe that's to none of you. Maybe none of you feel that way, but at least to a 7th grade Doug, there it is. I wanted to, just going back to, so I talked a little bit about different things that we do as designers. So I wanted to just give a little sneak peek into some of the tools that we use to design as well. So I talked about sketching. So that's pen, paper, pencil, paper, whatever your preferred medium. Does everyone here have a pen or a pencil and paper? Do we still use pencils and paper? Or tablets? What's the 2025? If anything, that's accessible, right? You can get to a pen and paper and you can start and you can design. But there are other things that we use. I talked about sewing, 3D printing, mold building, model making, creating. If you love like gluing things together, or building, you could use cardboard, whatever you like. There's lots of different ways to make and build. But what we try to do in design is to communicate visually. So whether it's a sketch, a drawing, something that we're sewing up, we're building it and presenting it, and that's how we work. Something that I use every single day is Adobe Illustrator. And so I could be saying this right now. If I think back to design 20 years ago, when I was in your which I obviously wasn't designing at that point, but I know people that were. At that time, they were more like hand drafting and different things like that. So maybe in 20 years, Adobe Illustrator will just be like generating something with AI. I don't know. But that's a tool that we use now and I use every day. But outside of just visual communication. To sell a design or to provide something that someone loves, we consider ourselves storytellers. So to take someone on the route of like loving a product, we try to tell a story with what we're building and designing, whether that's solving a problem or creating something beautiful, making someone's life easier. That's what we try to do. So visually communicating, telling stories, and I guess kind of the last thing that I want to underscore is that relationships are really important. Even in 7th grade, you may be sitting next to people that you'll be working with in 20 years, who knows? Or they could just be your friends and people that you talk to and support you. I still, to this day, I probably am in a group chat with friends that I had all the way back in 7th grade. And so that's not always the case, but you could be around people that are still influencing your lives in 20 years. So be nice, be kind, and be supportive. Because we're all different, we're all going through different things, but we can all help each other. Okay, so I have just a couple random thoughts to end. My career has been a whole lot of, at least for me, unexpected things taking me down different paths. So I had this big plan of being an NFL wide receiver or tight end, catching touchdowns, having full glory. And for many years, that was the only thing that I thought about. And then when that changed, I went down a big route of like, okay, well, here I am 17 trying to figure out the world. But you have all your life to follow different paths, to change routes, and to explore your passions. So I guess I went from transferring schools to moving different jobs to trying to get a job when there weren't any to master's programs and back. This is an image from Cotopaxi. We talked about Cotopaxi. I really think they're awesome, super influential on my career path at least. When I was thinking about starting Landed Footwear, I guess I didn't even say what the whole pitch for Landed Footwear. So I had the idea, I saw people hiking and outdoors wearing Vans and Converse. Does anyone here like Vans and Converse? There you go, nice. So Converse, I'm a big shoe historian too. Converse was originally a basketball shoe. Did anybody know that? Yeah. The way that Converse and Vans, their general shoes are constructed, is called vulcanization. Has anyone heard that word before? Brand new. So that is the first form of sneaker construction. And do you know why they call them sneakers? Because they were more quiet. Yeah, you could sneak around and they wouldn't make sounds like dress shoes prior. Kind of interesting. And so this was the original sneaker construction, was vulcanization, what Vans and Converse look like. It's where there's rubber wrapping around the side of the shoe and there's a rubber bottom. And so I knew from my love for shoe history that's the oldest form of construction. It's widely available. Lots of people that manufacture using vulcanizing. And I had this idea for creating a shoe that could be worn more outdoors and was more comfortable and fit more of an outdoor market. I met a lot of the people at Vans. They're very like big into skate, and that wasn't necessarily something that I did. But I saw people outdoors wearing the shoes, and I knew as someone obsessed with shoes that's not what they were built for. Vans were built to skate, and well, actually, originally, the Vans company didn't want skaters to buy the shoes. You can go read the book. They weren't actually originally built to skate, but that's what they adopted very quickly and became sneaking around, right? Sneakers, so vulcanized. But basketball skate shoes, not built for the outdoors, so that's what I wanted to do. I had different ideas and we pursued them, but one day when I was questioning myself whether it was even worth like something to pursue, I guess randomly went to the Cotopaxi website, and I'm sure I was just like thinking about other random things, but they had a new photo shoot and everyone outdoors was hiking and running around in Vans. And I thought, okay, this is my jump, this is my push point, something that I need to pursue, a company that that I admire so much is taking photo shoots outdoors in skate shoes. So I felt like maybe there was a need for it. And even since we launched the shoe, and that was a really broad market, and at the start, it wasn't like a lot of people, maybe it was like too many people we were going after. And then we started to find smaller groups that really liked the products. Now we're working on collaborations with people like One Wheel. But that whole point is to say what your current like path that you think you're going on might not be where you continue forever. Now, you might try new things. You might try some things and fail. For me, I took 2 chemistry classes in high school back to back. I wanted to be a physical therapist. That was my next route after the NFL. I was like, I'm going to work for athletes. And I knew a physical therapist here in Centerville, was my neighbor. He was really cool. He worked with us when I was in high school, helped us stay healthy. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I'm still working with athletes. And I failed 2 chemistry classes in a row, and an F. Well, we don't even have to ask that. But I was shattered. I had worked so hard. I actually tried very hard, and I failed the class. And so much so that I was so driven, I guess you could say, that I took the next class, even though I had failed the first one, knowing that I was going to go back and retake it. And I failed the second class, and I was like, okay, maybe this is not for me. And random things in your life will push you down different routes that you may have not expected. So try different things and discover your interests, because there's not just one route to success and not one route to happiness. And you can have a fulfilled life doing lots of different things. Don't be afraid to fail or start small. I bet all of you, there's something that you're interested in, and maybe this is overgeneralizing, but there might be a lot of you thinking this. There's something that you're interested in that you haven't tried because maybe you feel a little bit nervous to fail or to try it. I remember in 7th grade, that was a tough time of like life transition, right? You just came out of elementary school. You were the king of the school. It was like 6 or 7 grades under you, and you owned that place, right? 6 or 7, oh man, I walked into that. Don't worry, I have a 5-year-old in kindergarten, and that 6, 7 has even gotten to her, whatever that means. No one knows. Anyways, okay, I lost you now. So stay curious. Try the things. Be willing to fail. It's not comfortable, but the more comfort you get around failure, the more you'll grow, the more you'll learn. Enjoy the ride. And I like to think of myself as more than a designer. A designer is not what I am, it's what I do. And even at your age, I probably thought of myself as I am like a football player, or I am someone who isn't good at reading, and I am not as smart as someone else. Those are just labels that we put on ourselves. We're much more than what we do or what we think about ourselves in that box. But you all are awesome. You have so much life potential. Try and just enjoy the ride is what I put. There are so many fun things to do. Surround yourself with good people and search after your passions. Go for your dreams. Fail. Create new dreams, and keep going after it. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Like not, or did you like kind of slack off a bit?
It's a good question. So I tried pretty hard. Yeah. When I was in junior high, I tried hard and I struggled with reading. I struggled with my confidence, especially like reading out loud and in front of other people. It made me really nervous. Even into high school and college. And when I talked about the 2 classes that I failed, the 2 chemistry classes, I tried really hard. And I would go to, there were tutors or different people that would help us, and I still failed the classes. And so sometimes you may try hard and still fail, and that's okay. There was another question over here. My favorite color? Whew, that is a great question. So there's something in design called color theory.
I know.
And color theory, you go deep. Every color has meaning, right? I ebb and flow. If I were in junior high, I would say blue. because that was the Aggies. Charger blue, I was maybe a little bit darker, maybe more navy, but still, go CJH. Like, I like natural colors like yellow, green, orange, like the fall colors. You can't hate that. Good question. My favorite shoe I made, that is a good question. So I'm going to say, I've done a couple others that aren't presented here, so I'm just going to say from what's here. So this one is kind of a funky shoe. We have it in a lot of different colors. Well, I guess 3 different colors. I guess a set of colors we call a colorway. So we have 3 different colorways of the shoes, but they all have a lot of different colors. And this is one, I like a lot of colors and kind of a crazier shoe. And we were a little bit nervous to launch this shoe because it's a little more out there. And that is our most selling shoe. So it was something we were nervous about. And it was a little out there, but it was also different and enough people liked it. I'm going to come back here. Yeah. This is called the Banner. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So the question was it hard trying to start your own business? And the answer is yes, for sure. It's still hard. So we started with the idea 4 years ago, and we launched the company. Like, we had our first shoes for sale just 2 years ago. And a market like shoes, I bet a lot of you are wearing, maybe there's Nike, Adidas, different. There are a lot of big brands in footwear. And so we're a small brand trying to compete against larger brands. And so that's kind of difficult. But if you work with good people and you, at one point, I don't know that I said this, or maybe I took it out of the presentation. But I fully believe that if you work hard and you're good to work with, you're a nice person and you're kind, then the right opportunities come. So that's where we've tried to work really hard, and we've had some cool opportunities that have helped us continue as a business. So it's a good question. But yeah, definitely. It's a hard thing, but we're also super passionate about it, so it's fun at the same time. Okay, we'll go back here, and then we'll come back up here. That's a great question. So how do I come up with ideas for shoe design? I like to take it back to this. Like, I like to solve problems. That's where I think the best designs solve problems. There are a lot of designs that that might just be there. Like, sometimes, I'm trying to think of a good example, but not everything solves a great problem, right? But the easiest way to find a good idea for a design is to see a problem that someone's struggling with, and then to understand it and try to come up with solutions to help solve it. That's kind of my simple way of putting it. Yeah. It's a good question. So we sell our shoes online. My business partner, this is where I go back to surrounding yourself with good people. This is my business partner, Bryce. Guess what? He is also a Centerville Junior High graduate. Isn't that wild? And he owns a store called Walking Comfort. It's in Centerville. I'm here. That's where we're at. Right next to Target. There's another one in Draper. But I actually worked for the store at one point, and his name is Bryce Anderson. He knew that I was into footwear design, and so I actually ended up quitting the job there and told him that when I was moving to Oregon to become a footwear designer. Anyways, when I had an idea for the company later, I came back to Bryce because we worked well together, and I knew that he would be interested in starting a company as well. So I'm trying to remember what your question was. Store. So we don't have our own store, but we're in the Walking Comfort store, and we're in a couple other stores throughout Utah and California, and hopefully some more to come. So that's a good question. Would you say you have to work as hard as you can to achieve your dreams? I think hard work beats out skill. And maybe that doesn't make sense right now, but some people might have skill or like natural talent at something, but if they're lazy, maybe they don't get to where they could. And someone that's working hard, maybe they don't have the same skills, but they're going to work hard to get there. I also think it's important to have space outside of really hard work too. Like things that you enjoy, things that you love. Because if you're just constantly work, then you're going to have a little burnout. And the thing that you love might change from a passion to something that you have to do and you don't love it as much anymore. So I think hard work is really critical, but I think it's also good to be well-rounded and to have other things that you like. That's why I put the point of being more than a designer, more than what you're really passionate about. If you have other outlets, that can save your brain a little bit, some overwork. So hard work, though, I'm all about it. Okay, so I went to the idea of thinking about Vans or Converse, and guess what? Here's the trick. Shoes can do a lot of different things. So I knew that in a specialized sense, Vans or Converse were not built to go outdoors, but as someone who wears the shoes, you get to decide where the shoes go. So if you want to wear football cleats on a basketball court, you could make your way onto the court in football cleats, but you'd probably ruin the court and fall over. So the user takes the product where it is, but when we started the company, I just in knowing, doing research, having personal experience, the first place where a lot of Vans or Converse will break is where your forefoot flexes. So right at if you think about the knuckles of your foot, so right here in this crease is where a Vans or a Converse will break first. And there aren't any other companies that kind of design around this, but we wanted to build the shoe to move. And so on a little shoe information here, the inside of your shoe is the medial side and the outside is the lateral side. So we designed it to flex more naturally with your foot for better movement, and also just so the shoe can last longer and not break in that point. We did a tread that's a little bit more aggressive than those other two companies, so you could jump around on rocks or hike on a trail, different things like that. And something that my business partner Bryce, his shoe company or his store is called Walking Comfort, so we had to build them very comfortably. So there's a lot of comfort packed into the insole, which is inside the shoe, which a lot of other companies, honestly, the majority of the footwear industry ignores, at least as part of the shoe. So we wanted to build something that could move, that was versatile. You could wear it to school or to work or outdoors or however your life takes you, and was also comfortable. So we have a couple different styles. There's the Overlook, the Banner, and the Switchback. Yeah, sure, pass them around.
I like that.
And of course, I'm always wearing them. These are the Switchbacks. Wear them all around. This one?